the last person in Mr. Wasil from Ethiopia. I'm sure Mr. Wasil, you will not discourage with that, because W is the last word. So yesterday I was getting your paper in the evening. It was a misunderstanding. Anyhow, I'm glad that you submit your paper, and I try to read it immediately when you send me. Then I'll give you 10 minutes. I don't have it in hard copy, of course, because I had a class. So I can read it from my laptop here. It was well done paper. It's very interesting paper. I'm so happy with the paper, but I hope that you will make me more happy also in your presentation. Then I will have 10 minutes. So, Mr. Wasil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Doc. Good afternoon, my classmates.
Good afternoon.
This is Wasyun Abatasante with the matriculation number of PAUUI 0677. I'm going to present about the sport and peace, which is parts of sociology of sport and development. So this sport and peace is a big aspect in terms of sociology of sports. Let's go quickly because of my time. So as introduction, sport is actually all forms of physical activity which is casual or organized and competitive form of play, and it uses to also improve physical fitness, mental well-being, forming a relationship or obtaining results in the competition at all levels of individuals. Whereas peace is actually the societal relationship or friendship and harmony of the absence of hostility and also violence. So in this context of sports sociology, peace is actually it's a lack of conflict, such as lack of war or any violence, and also it's freedom from any fear of violence between individuals or groups or communities. This is peace. What about peace building? Peace building is actually a long-term process which is to facilitate durable peace, and it also tries to prevent the recurrence of violence by addressing root cause and also the effects of conflicts via reconciliation, institution building, and political as well as economic transformation. So here sport can play a very great role for peace, and it's also powerful, and it's neutral from anything. Mean that it's neutral from religious, political, or any ethnic groups, so that it can easily or simply implement or apply sport for peace, and it's also a universal language to bring peace between society and to last any conflict or war. So according to UNESCO, sport is a universal language, and it is unmatchable or unparalleled ability to bring peace or to bring individuals or pupils together. So because of its universal popularity, this is the most powerful global communication platform, mean that it can make everyone of the world together. We can take an example of this FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. As FIFA states that almost more than 3 billion of people in the world will watch this football match in direct or indifferent way. So which means it can bring all together, and we can say it's a global communication platform. So because of this, it connects individuals to build their capacities. So sport can also help or acquire personal discipline. As we know, we can take an example of ball games. Those ball games like football, handball, volleyball, and basketball. All sports have its own rules, regulations, laws of the game, and disciplinary codes. So while playing those sports, individual should respect rules, regulations, and laws of the game of that particular sport. So which means that through years, individuals or participants can develop their discipline, also leadership and teamwork. So I take those board games purposely because they are a collective teamwork. No one can do alone. They need all participations. So it develops or it improves individuals' leadership and teamwork. We can take also another best example for this. The only guy of Africa who won Ballon d'Or, what do you call it? The Liberian guy, and currently is serving as president of Liberia, George Weah. He's actually the only guy, the only African player who won a Ballon d'Or. So this guy actually doesn't participate in any political aspirations, but through sport, he built up his teamwork and leadership quality. That's why now he's serving his country as president or head of state. So we can say sport can also improve individuals' leadership quality. So these attributes actually through sport very effective and low cost without having or without providing any financial costs. So sport can also address social and economic challenges. Mean that social challenges, as far as sport bring all together, we will improve our personal relationship with others so that we can have a good relationship with different background or with different individuals who came from different area. Also, we can take an example of Lionel Messi and Ronaldo in economic aspect. Now, sport is the most highest salary payment discipline we can say in the world. For example, in my country, for one player per month, 300,000 birr. This is too much money for one player for 1 month. Whereas when you compare with other professions, it's not like that. So which means that sport can improve individuals' economic challenges. If we have a good economic status and socially good, the occurrence or the prevalence of conflict and war will de-escalate. So it helps to improve those challenges. So it also achieve individual social development between individuals, group, community, as well as the country. Let's move on quickly for next slide, which is the contribution of sports and peace in process of peace and reconciliation. Now, this is the picture of Olympics. As we know, Olympics is the foremost international event in the world, and all nations of the world can compete together with similar criteria without any discrimination. So we can say it's not only the only international big event. We can say this is the entire world big event because every other country can compete together without any discrimination. Whereas we have a political organization, what we call it United Nations. That's a big entity in terms of just its popularity. But there is discrimination here. That we have Group 8, G8, G7, G20. Look at from this image, you can see this Rwanda flag far better than the UK flag around here. In politics, we can never see it. Always, those Western countries are in front, whereas others, especially Africans, at the back. But sport, it brings all together, and it gives equal competition with others. So sport can play a great role. So in the contribution of sport with resolution, reconciliation, and reconstruction, sport, as I said earlier, it plays a great role for building a positive relationship between individuals, group, or as a country. Also, it promotes social inclusion. As I said before, it brings all individuals come together without any discrimination. But we have to take a note that sport alone cannot do anything. Rather, it may worsen things or situations. We can take an example under this situation. In 1970, El Salvador and Honduras played for football match, but before that match there was tension between those countries in immigration purpose or immigration issues. So that incident was because of that tension. When those two teams played, that tension was increased. The tension of that competition was high, and there was 100 hours war between those two teams, and we can call a football war. So if we are not managing it, and if we are not working with others, because sport cannot do anything alone, we need others to participate, then we can make peace between individuals or between groups or as a country. Under resolution, sport also play a great role, which is it reestablishes new contact or finding common ground and reducing the hunger. It builds also relationship by making favorable condition for peace resolution. Under reconciliation, actually, sport can promote healing, or it promotes, the trauma. It decreases the level of trauma after that incident. So it is to reestablish a good relationship among different ethnicity, which is to break the vicious or brutal circle of hate and bringing social change. So during and after playing, actually, individuals or participants can engage in different educational programs, and which makes sport very, very important pedagogical forum for peace building. The last point of 3R is reconstruction, which brings rehabilitation from trauma, which is actually, it has reculturation, restoring the culture before the war was taking place. So it introduced practical conflict and knowledge and skill. So sport can actually, by establishing self-governing clubs or leagues or different sport clubs, and they exercise democratization, and it also give a good lesson for the country. We can take an example of election in Nigeria for NFF election. I hope it was democratic election. Even in my country, Ethiopia, there was election for football federation, even though there was some issues, but to some extent it was a democratic election. So which means it gives a good lesson for the country to do these kinds of democratization. Restructuration, it also eliminates the social exclusion. As I said earlier, in sport, all are equal, all can compete in one place. So it has very, very important role for the peace development. So for lasting peace, positive peace is very, very important. What's positive peace? Positive peace is actually the absence of roots of conflict with this consequent absence of violent and visible conflict. So to bring a positive peace, we should work with others and their levels. We should start from the grassroots, from the beginning up to the local government. We should also work with local community to the government, or we can work also from national, the non-governmental organization to the community and international organizations for lasting peace. What about negative peace? We have still negative peace. Negative peace is actually the achievement of ceasefire and stop the violence of conflict. We can call it negative peace. Let's say, for example, the Ethiopian issue in 2018 up to 2022. Now, we had a bad situation in northern part of Ethiopia. Personally, I cannot say that's civil war. It's not civil war. It's just something we cannot explain that way. But there was a war between those two, the government and the rebel group of the northern part of Ethiopia. So the government tried to cease fire before a year, but because it was negative peace, they want to just stop the war, but not the last peace. So if we are not doing lasting peace, positive peace, it cannot assure that it cannot end the violence. Maybe sooner or later, because of intolerance, or because of fear, or because of discrimination, or because of injustice, the violence may happen. So there is a diagram which tells detailed information about positive peace and negative peace. Here we have direct violence and cultural violence, structural violence. We can see here in this triangle there is visible violence, which escalates the negative peace, whereas less visible violence, which escalates peace through sport. So those positive and negative peace actually have a great impact with sport to bring peace in the country or in the community or in individual level. So 3R synergy, like resolution, reconciliation, and reconstruction, are still very, very important to manage it or to solve these issues. Yeah, let's quick forward. Sport and peace at international level. Now I'm going to see all important points in sport and peace, international, in community and individual level. So on international level, because sport can bring change in the society, the world organizations or international actors actually endorsed it as a source, as a means of peace, including United Nations, International Olympic Committee, and so many intergovernmental organizations, including sport federations and international development agencies. This guy is the Nobel Peace Award winner. He is from Bangladesh. His name is Muhammad Yunus. And this guy said, Olympics should win the World Peace Prize. Why he said so? Let's see it in detail. Then let's ask ourselves this question. This guy said Olympics should win the Peace Prize. Why? All right. Here, the recent Beijing Olympic 2008. Actually, here in Beijing 2008, we have a good memory especially for Ethiopians, because we won many gold medals in that competition, especially by Kananisa Bekele and Toronash Dibaba. We won 4 gold medals from 2 athletes, so we have a good memory on that. So in Beijing 2008 Olympic, those 2 athletes from Russia and Georgia, they came to compete. However, there was a big issue in the country. Russia already attacked the parts of Georgia before this competition opened officially. Most the Georgia players or team members or delegates refused to come and to participate in that Olympic because of the Russia's issue. However, this lady Nino, she came after a hour of decision of the national delegation of Georgia and compete with the Russian counterpart in a 10-meter air pistol in Beijing. Then actually the Georgia athlete Nino, she finished in 3rd place and won bronze medals, whereas the Russian athlete Natalia, she finished 2nd and won silver medals. But Nino kissed her counterpart Russian athlete, and it was actually very, very interesting. Then after this incident, the war between those 2 countries stopped, which means this Olympic played a great role for peace between 2 countries. This issue is also another point, which is the Winter Games in 2018, recent Winter Olympic Games in Pyongyang, South Korea. As we know, South Korea and North Korea are separate countries, and also one of each other actually claim as a legitimate government of all Korean citizens. But in sport, actually, any legitimate country can compete as its own country. They can represent their own country. But in this situation, there was something new and unique issue. In ice hockey, those 2 countries, North Korea and South Korea, we can never believe this issue. Those 2 countries can play together, but they just represent one ice hockey team and compete as one team. This happened only in sport. It can never happen in other aspects or other issues. So that guy, Muhammad Yunus, said Olympics should win Peace Prize. We can say yes, I think. Sport and peace at national level. Let's delete inter and let's say national level. At national level, actually, sport can use to bring peacekeeping operations by illustrating promotion of peace at national level. There are so many athletes. They played as a role model in peace making. We can take as example of Didier Drogba. This is an Ivory Coast international football player. He was a Chelsea player and he played in US, America, Major League Soccer and other areas of Turkey. This guy actually, he played a great role for peacemaking in his country. As you can see from this slide, Didier Drogba, this pictured in orange color in between those soldiers, there was a great tension in the parts of Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, but there was a match between Ivory Coast and Madagascar, and he submitted his letter to the government and the National Federation of Ivory Coast to play with Madagascar in that very tensified area so that we can last the war between those rebel groups and the national government of Ivory Coast. Then they did it. All Ivory Coast individuals came together to support their national team. Immediately, that was stopped and finished. That all. So sport can play a great role for peace development. After that, actually, Didier Drogba now serving as vice president in Peace and Sport International non-governmental organization.
Mr. Wakil, we have three minutes only, please.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, sport and peace at community level. In community, it also rebuild the positive relationship between former enemies, and also it used to bring a good team for them. So, this is Afghanistan rugby team. As you can see from this picture, the middle guy is president of Afghanistan Rugby Federation. He came here to introduce himself for the national rugby team to play a great role for the development of peace, because that area actually has a lot of issues in terms of peace and security. So rugby players, individuals who can play sport, which means they are not participating in different things in violence and other issues. So sport can also play a positive role for development of peace by making fun competition and also becoming far from violence and related issues. In individual level, it also boosts self-esteem and confidence, because while playing different sports, they have its own aspects like physical, psychological, and psychomotor skills. So it can boost the psychological or the self-esteem and self-confidence of individuals. So it's very, very important to note that one cannot make a peace without others, but one can make a peace with others if that guy or that person is peace with himself, with herself. So peace is important even for individuals. We have to make a peace with ourselves. We have to make a peace with others, then we can make a peace as a country. To establish a sport and peace project, we can have different procedures here, as you can see from this slide. So there are peace and sport projects, which is in South Africa, Right to Play in Liberia, Ivory Coast, as I mentioned earlier, and Unite for Children, Unite for Peace, FIFA 2006 World Cup Germany. It was also another issue. So in Ethiopia, as sport is important to make a peace between different ethnic groups. It did also in Ethiopia, in parts of our Ethiopia, what we call it Gambela region. So there was a tension between different ethnic groups. So sport brings a good point here to solve the issue in that area. They played different sports in that area. They came together. They danced together. They also sit and discuss in different forums to solve their personal issues via sports. Yeah, this is the way they did the traditional sport festival, and they danced together. They also sang a peace song together. Those different groups and roundtable debates were happened there. This is another image from the northern part of Ethiopia. Actually, this picture is from 2018, and thousands celebrate the reconciliation between Ethiopia and Eritrea after almost more than 25 years because of the agreement between the national government of Ethiopia and Eritrea. So this incident was the first and only incident which shows the peace between those two countries in 10-kilometer run in Addis Ababa, capital city of Ethiopia. Of course, in Africa capital city, because AU headquartered in there. So thousands of Ethiopians and Eritreans took part in 10-kilometer for joining the sporting event to approve the diplomatic tour of the country. There are different organizations because of the importance of sport for peace. There are so many organizations are now established. And also different academic community become interested to publish articles in sport and peace. So please take note that play your peace on April 6, because April 6 is an international day of sport for development and peace. These are some references. Thank you very much. That is all.
Okay.